Welcome to Defiance of Silence, a sacred witness. This is a space for survivors, healers, and witnesses to share their truth. Here we stand against the silence that isolates us and embrace the silence that allows us to be truly heard. I'm Valerie, your host, a U.S. Army veteran, nurse, and a survivor. Together, we will discover the power of being witnessed and the healing that follows. A gentle note, though, this podcast includes conversations about sexual trauma and abuse. Please listen with care and honor your own well-being. Thank you for being here to witness today's conversation. Hi, everybody. So we're here. This is the first episode of Defiance of Silence, a sacred witness podcast. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with me. Before we begin, I just want to invite you to take a little pause with me. Let's take one deep breath together. So slow inhale and then exhale. Thank you for arriving here just as you are. This is a space of sacred witness where your presence matters. Being present matters. The stories that you're going to hear throughout this season deserve to be witnessed just like you. And being present is what really brings this whole concept together. So I don't really know where to start other than just to tell you a little bit of my own personal story of how this all came to be. And, I feel like there's not really a lot of voices that are talking about these things. And these are hard things to talk about, right? So my life in general has been marked by sexual trauma at many different stages. So I experienced some childhood abuse, also a sexual assault while I was in high school, my senior year of high school. And then at age 18, I joined the military and I experienced military sexual trauma within a very short time of joining. I was at my first duty station, and I was also held captive there for 48 hours before I was able to escape in the middle of the night, essentially. So the thing that's noteworthy of all of this is that I told no one. I carried all of this in silence for so long. And when you do that, it takes a toll. So the toll is the price you pay is that your body keeps score for this, right? So what that looks like as an adult is sexual dysfunction, countless unexplained health issues, women's issues, migraines, all of these things that never had a cause. And I was so frustrated. And it caused me so much heartache because something was wrong with me, but I didn't know what. And I could never connect that those things were the cause because your body does what it needs to do to survive, right? And it protects you. So I shoved all of those things down because I had kids to take care of and I had life to live. So I had nursing school to complete. I had all of these things going on that I literally could not function if I didn't push those things down. So over time, they just disappeared. So I would be in and out of therapy and they would say, have you ever had any trauma? And I would say, no, I've not had any trauma. And I wasn't lying to them. It was truly something that I just couldn't recall. But my body was paying the price for this. And I didn't really have words for that at that time. So my body and my relationships were carrying the truth of what my voice could not. And the enormity of that sits with me now is just so profound. And I can't even imagine what my life would be like had these things not come about. So years later, I unexpectedly, I'm going through all of these things. I'm in nursing school. Stress, right? So everything's getting blamed on stress. I've had, mono so many times and all of these different things kept happening. And I just couldn't figure it out. I'd been to specialist after specialist with lots of female problems, and being told there's nothing wrong with you physically. So I'm going to the doctor and they're saying these things don't have a cause. And it was so frustrating that I would just pray, God, please, why is this happening to me? So I unexpectedly, when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, who is now almost 16, ran into my assailant from the military base in public. And that moment blew open the doors to all of that repressed trauma. My body froze on the sidewalk before I even saw anything. I was like, what is happening? My body's not moving and my heart is racing. And I looked up and I saw him and I froze. And then I ran. And that moment blew open the doors. I mean, to a 16 plus year journey of healing and just searching for balance and trying to understand what it means to be in my body. And I would hear people say these things and I didn't understand what that meant. And I'm an educated person, but everything was so much in my head. I couldn't connect to it emotionally. I was so numb, but I didn't even know it. It was like, I should be feeling this, but I'm not. But I'm just doing the mom thing and the wife thing and taking care of all of the things that I need to take care of, and willingly. And I felt like I was living in peace, but what I discovered is that peace was actually numbness, and I had no idea. So, you just do the thing, right? So I'm working through some things. I'm feeling somewhat better about things. I've seen a therapist. I've been really working on trying to take care of my body. But in 2020, the I Am Vanessa Guillen and the Me Too movements collided with this isolation from COVID. So I spiraled into a depression and into a major PTSD episode. And I had been told before that I had PTSD, and I just refused to believe it. I said, I haven't been in combat. Why would I have PTSD? And up until this point, now we're into maybe like the end of 2022. I feel completely alone. I had friends. I had family. I knew I was loved. It wasn't that I didn't feel loved. I just felt like nobody could possibly understand what I had been through. And I truly didn't want to talk about my time in service, because if I talked about being in the Army, the next question would be, oh, what did you do? And no, I didn't have to tell them what happened to me, but in my brain connected, if I say I was in the military, then I have to tell them about what happened to me. And that's not true, but it was just a story that I had been telling myself. So I never considered reaching out to the VA or getting any kind of support that way. And I honestly didn't know what the term MST even meant. So I get online, and that stands for military sexual trauma, if you didn't know that. I get online and I start looking up, hey, what if you were assaulted in the military? And what I found was alarming and shocking. And because of the Vanessa Guillen movement, like, I could hardly watch it because it triggered me so much, and I didn't even know what triggers were. And I was scared to death that I was going to be exposed and all of these things. So I would suffer in silence, and I didn't want to tell anybody that these were the things that were happening. So I began to have nightmares and panic attacks and things from my assault that I thought I had dealt with. So by the end of 2022, I had finally found some veteran support from a veteran service organization that had some amazing women that just immediately accepted me for who I am and said, girl, you do not have to suffer in silence. We've all experienced that. And the beautiful thing about it is nobody had to go into detail about what happened to them, because we just knew. They had witnessed me, and they knew what had happened to me, and I didn't have to say it. And they just knew. But I was so numb and so unsure of what was going to happen next, and full of anxiety. And I was using a lot of substances just to cope at that time. So I'm trying to hold all these things together: wife, mother, friend, overachieving employee. It was a lot. And I was burned out, numbed out, exhausted, and in general, just really overwhelmed. And I couldn't have even really put words to what was going on inside of me. So I was really struggling. The hospitals were full and there was just so much happening that I really had a hard time keeping up with what was really going on. And I just spent every day going to work and then coming home, numbing out and going to sleep. And the connection with my kids was really struggling, and my marriage was really struggling with all of that. So I know now that this was really what some would call the dark night of the soul. Like, my faith was hanging by a thread, and I really just didn't know what was up or what was down. But in January of 2023, I told my story publicly on a friend's podcast. Side note, she's going to join us on the show sometime this season as well. But for the first time, somebody truly bore witness to me. She gave me a space to tell my story, not judged. And I received so much support and love from that story that act literally cracked open decades of silence. So I started to think about what that silence was really costing me. And that year following opening up about what happened to me in the military really was just the beginning of a really deep inner work that needed to happen. So there's no accidents, I believe. And through a series of friends and events, I ended up finding something called Save a Warrior. You can see the link to that in the show notes as well. But I went to Save a Warrior in January of 2024. So just about a year after sitting on that podcast as a guest. And I attended Save a Warrior, and there I experienced what I can only describe as a spiritual awakening that changed my entire path. There's no way I could have seen this coming. And it really is an opportunity there to stop telling myself stories and stop acting like a victim and stop doing the things to myself that I thought I deserved, punishing myself and having these intrusive thoughts and just really shaming myself for not being enough. And since I got back from there, I've just steadily been doing the work and trying to stay present in my life, connect with my family. But what I discovered with that is that whole process broke those things open because I was witnessed. And the people that are part of that program taught me a lot about being witnessed and how to be a witness. So when I got home, I realized that I needed to have that here too. So I joined a 12-step recovery program here at a local church, and I found some beautiful women that really were instrumental in just witnessing me weekly, witnessing me exactly where I was at, no judgment, sitting in a circle of people who could sit with my pain and I could sit with their pain. And I discovered something powerful. I am not a victim, and I do not have to be quiet about the things that I've been through. And neither did they. So what happened to me doesn't own me, and I can take ownership of my healing. So I can tell a new story, one that's rooted not in silence or shame, but in strength and the ability to speak truth in love. And so I started to think about how do normal people like me and you get to tell our stories? Like, I hear all these inspiring stories, and they're so moving. And the more I hear these stories, when they're done the right way, that's not like sensational material or, trauma porn. That's not the goal here. The goal is to witness somebody and allow them to be seen. But I think there's something important with that. Like, you have to want to be seen. And I know that I personally hid for a long time because I was too ashamed of what they might see. So it's taken a lot of time for me to get to this place where I could put myself out there like that. But that seed was planted in my heart a long time ago about this podcast. But I didn't know how to do it. And I didn't know that anyone was just going to volunteer their trauma. Like, who wants to call up and say, yes, I've experienced sexual trauma. Would you like to tell it in public? Great. No, that's not really how it goes. But I can tell you that the people that do have experienced a witnessing that has brought them to this place, and they are brave and they're willing to speak their truth because they know what it will do for you. So keep that in mind as you listen, that these people that are coming on the show to tell their experiences, they're all going to be at different levels of healing. Some of them are at the beginning, and sometimes you just don't know how to start. So you have to listen to where they started. It was really hard for me to hear somebody's story and say, yeah, but they're on the other side of it, and I'm never going to get there. And who knows when you're actually on the other side of it, by the way. I don't know where that is, but here's where we are now, and that's where I'm choosing to be, right? So that seed was planted for this podcast, and I kept thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I just would shelve it and put it aside and think, well, when the time is right, I'll know. So about a year ago, almost in October of last year, I was at work and I opened my email and saw that there was a posting for a forensic nurse fellowship at my work, where I work at. So it would be outside of my regular duties as a surgical nurse, but I thought, I've wanted to do this for a long time, but was this really a safe thing for me to do? Could I do this without being triggered all over the place? And could I do this from a place of healing? And the timing just felt right. So I applied and had a series of interviews and started working in this forensic nurse fellowship in January of this year, 2025. And so now I currently work part-time outside of my regular nurse duties at the hospital as a SANE. And if you don't know what a SANE is, it is a sexual assault nurse examiner or a forensic nurse. And what we do is provide a medical forensic assessment for patients who come in that have been assaulted and have experienced sexual violence within a certain time frame. And we collect evidence and we stay with those patients from assault to courtroom if it goes that far. And so in doing this, I started to notice that we are witnessing these survivors in the rawest hours after assault. And I saw their bravery and their courage to speak, even when shattered, right? So something started to break open in me that, I knew I had to create some kind of safe space where people could say the things they never could before, to say the thing. Because, if you're like me, I didn't report any of my things. So when I started to say them, I started saying them all at once, and it was a lot. And I just wonder what that would have been like if somebody could have witnessed me in those moments. I don't know. I didn't have the strength at the time to do it, and I was scared to do it. And I'd seen what happened to those in the military that did report, and it wasn't a road that I had the courage to go down at that time. So, I can't say what I was thinking then. Honestly, that was a long time ago, and here we are now, right? So, last month I was in training, finishing up this forensic nurse fellowship so that I could be released to the wild to go work on my own without having the training wheels on anymore. And I went to this training that was held at a university, and in the middle of learning how to do speculum exams, I am down there doing what I need to do, and I'm taking this seriously, and I'm learning about all of these things, what I need to do, how to do this properly. And I get this complete, what I can only describe as a download of what this podcast is going to be and how it needs to go and what I need to do. And this whole map, it just laid out right in front of me in my mind. And I'm thinking, really, God, right here? I don't even have a pen. I don't know how I'm supposed to write this down. And it's no accident that it came while I was face to face with the very source of their wounds. Let that sink in for just a second. It's taken me weeks to even process that, to be honest. So here I am looking at the very thing that's caused this wound to this person's soul. And this whole thing just lays out before me that that's the source of their wound, and that's where they need the healing. And I can speak life to that, right? I can do this sacred witnessing and speak life to that part of them that is broken in that moment. And they don't even have to know that I'm doing that. But that was the moment that I knew that this podcast had to be born. And it wasn't just an idea. Like, this to me feels like a spiritual assignment. This feels like something that I can't not do. So I'm here to hold this space, to witness, and we're going to do that together because it's going to take a lot of love and a lot of community to support the brave people that are going to come and share stories with us and talk about their healing journeys. Like, this is not easy. And I'm just so thankful that I have this opportunity to do this. So thank you for being here. One last thing I do want to share with you, though, is that how we came across the name Defiance of Silence, a sacred witness. Hopefully that makes sense to you at this point after I've shared a little bit of how we arrived here. But to me, defiance of silence means we must stand against the silence, because the silence is what's killing people. We're the walking dead. Too many of us are walking through life like ghosts and carrying unspeakable pain with no voice, or not using our voices anyway. So to heal, we must push back against the silence. So we have to break the silence for our own traumas and let these things be witnessed. But on the flip side of that, there's also a silence that saves us, the silence of this witness, right? So to sit with someone's pain without judgment, without fixing, and without rushing, that silence is what's sacred. That sacred pause when somebody's sharing something and you look in their eyes and you don't have to say anything other than, me too. Like, I get it. Me too. So the point is not to come on this show and dump all the trauma and have all these listeners who are like, did you hear this horrible story? No, I ask you and I beg you, if you listen to this show, that you listen as a sacred witness. And if you need to be witnessed, then you come on and we will witness you too. So yes, we're going to defy the silence that destroys us and embrace the silence that honors us. And that is the balance, and that is the heart of this podcast. So I want to thank you for listening, and I'm so excited to see where it's going to go. And there's one thing that's really important to me when you're witnessing, is the ability to witness and then release, because we were not meant to carry that. It's not yours to carry. It's not yours to hold. So we can hold on to it while we're holding the space and we're sharing and listening and witnessing. But then I want to invite you to release that, because it's not yours to carry, and you should let it go because you don't need to carry that. Just like part of this podcast is going to be talking about vicarious trauma, which is exactly that thing, right? We see so much and we don't release it, and we don't have a way to process it. So they need to witness too, so that they can take care of the patients that they're seeing or their loved one. So many spouses of sexually traumatized people carry that burden silently. And I know in my life, it's taken a lot of healing for my husband and I to really be able to talk about the deep parts that were damaged because of these things that happened to me. So it's a beautiful thing to be witnessed. And so I want to just invite you to release everything you've heard today with an open mind and an open heart, and just be willing to witness. So unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, take a slow, deep exhale and inhale, and imagine letting go of just one piece of shame or one piece of something that isn't yours to carry anymore. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of being witnessed, and you're not alone. I want to thank you for being here with me in this space. This is really only the beginning, and I am so grateful. So grateful. Thank you for being a sacred witness for today's episode. If this conversation has brought up difficult feelings, Please remember to take care of yourself in whatever way you need. Healing is not a straight line, and you do not have to walk this alone, okay? So if you need additional support, please reach out to a trusted friend, a professional, or a resource in your community. There's resources listed in the show notes as well. Your well-being matters the most, so thank you for being here and choosing to listen with care. Until next time, remember that you are loved and worthy of being witnessed.